Jeff, how's it going, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm great, dude. I'm so excited for this conversation, man. We've been trying to book this thing for so long, and I just have so many things I want to talk to you about. So thanks for joining me on Dads with Mikes.
No, I appreciate you having me. Yeah, it's been a bit of an adventure trying to connect, but good things come to those who wait, I guess. So happy
Yeah,
we were
look,
able to make it
there's a very
happen.
good reason why it's been hard to to pin you down, but we'll get into that soon. But dude, start me off with tell us about yourself, how old you are, how old are your kids, that sort of thing.
Sounds good. Yeah, you mentioned my name. I'm Jeff. Just turned 43 yesterday, I think. So gotta
Happy
get
birthday,
used to
man.
gotta get used to saying 43 now. Been married for I should know this. I think 13 years. We've been together for 20 years. Found my soulmate, lucky enough to find her a while ago. So we've been building an awesome life together. Our daughter just turned 10 a week ago, and my son is about 8. And yeah, I guess a little bit of background is I'm a chiropractor by trade. Work with kids. My wife also works with kids. We've been fortunate enough to kind of, work together as well. We work quite well together, and that's kind of what launched our online business. And I think part of the reason you were alluding to is, a couple of years ago we sort of had this idea, and the way, everything was going in our lives, we decided to go on a bit of an adventure. We put all our stuff in storage, sold our business and went around North America in a trailer and are still in the midst of doing that. So that brought us to this conversation.
That blows my mind, man. Look, but the big part of the reason why I wanted to have you on this podcast so much is because of this reason. And for probably for a lot of people, what you guys did, who can say that we packed everything up and we just with our kids and that's all, yeah, whatever. We're just gonna go travel to North America and just go with the flow type of thing. Is that what you guys did?
Yeah, I think a big thing was we were sort of living that, the dream life. We had a business that was doing well. My practice was doing well. We were living in Kelowna, which is a nice town out in BC. But you could just see the next 10 years of our lives were sort of planned out. And, I was homeschooling my kids. I was coaching soccer, all these sorts of things. But life was flying by. I wasn't, getting that quality time with kids. It was, we're going from school to practice and I got to run to work. And, every day was sort of over planned. And that was just kind of how life was going for us. And one day me and my wife just kind of said, we need to do something, or next thing you know, we're gonna, snap out of it and our kids are gonna be, fully growing. And we recognized how precious our time was with them, and it wasn't going to be there forever. So we saw this. We knew a couple of people that have done it. We saw this opportunity and said, you know what, let's pounce on this. Or our kids are at a great age where they were independent. We've met families that are currently doing this with, toddlers, and that eats up a lot of the time, right? You're in a new place, you're towing your home behind your trucks. You have to set that up and take that down, and meet new people with these dependents on you. And we've also met families that have done this with teenagers, and the teenagers who really crave a vibrant social life. They're not always getting that, right? And the parents would joke, my kids don't want to hang out with me, that sort of thing. That's another topic, I guess. But we felt our kids were at a really good age to go on this adventure, and it's been that they've thrived. It's been a family adventure. We didn't realize how much of an adventure and experience it was going to be for myself and Amy, but yeah, we really crave that family time, and it's been that and more for us. So yeah, we just, it wasn't easy. People said, I don't know how you could have done that, right? And we made the decision to do it. It wasn't easy to kind of uproot everything. It wasn't easy having, a business in the community to kind of, get that to run without us there. It took work to make it happen, but that's the decision we made. And yeah, here we are.
Okay, so it wasn't about you guys being unhappy necessarily with your situations. Did you feel like you were stuck in a routine and you were almost going to burn out, and you told Amy, listen, I think I'm going to go crazy. Like if I keep living this routine life of 9 to 5 and it's the same old, I work all day and then we cook dinner and then we do homework and I just can't do this anymore. I need like variety. Was it something like that, or you just because you wanted to just live a different life? What specifically brought this on?
I don't know. There was definitely some burnout. I mean, we were pedal to the metal, or, we would sometimes look at each other and be like, wow, how did we just make it through that day or that week? And we could recognize that it was just flying by. Where'd that week go? Where'd that month go? That type of thing. And I think a big part of it was, we needed to do something to slow that down. We needed to do something to get that, take control of our family's time, take control of our schedule. I think it was that more than anything, where we'd talk to people who with older kids and they're saying, man, enjoy that time while you still can. And it was tough to find ways to enjoy that time. Like I said, we were homeschooling. I was coaching my kids sports teams. Our spare time, a lot of that was dedicated to family time, and it still just felt like we were just white knuckles hanging on for dear life on this wild ride. And we just saw this as an opportunity to potentially slow things down and spend quality time with the kids, with each other, with the family. So it's provided that it's a big change of pace, more so in the day to day, right? You're not commuting, you're not stuck in traffic, you're not having to wait in line at the grocery store or to pick up milk on the way home, that sort of thing. So you're able to doing this sort of, lifestyle, I guess, is you're able to kind of claw back those 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, that sort of thing. And that's um, been what we were hoping for. I did the math a couple of months ago, and to date, I think we were 9 months into this, and we'd gotten about 600 extra hours with the kids that we wouldn't have gotten had we
Wow.
been, working and doing all those other things. So,
Dude,
yeah.
like I said, like a big reason I wanted to have you on is so that you could tell me about this, because I've sort of been fantasizing about it. So you guys actually did what I want to do, and my wife is the same way, and she probably wants it more than me. Like we're just look, my wife was a lawyer at a bank, at a big bank in Canada, National Bank of Canada, and she was doing that for almost 10 years. I'm also working in a bank, and I've also been there for maybe 7 or 8 years. And it's just the 9 to 5 grind. And I can say that a couple of years ago I did go through, we can call it a burnout, even though the insurance companies didn't want to they didn't want to call it that, so they wouldn't have to pay me a sick leave. But I'm pretty sure I was either close to it or went through it, and I couldn't. I was living a life of meaningless work, living without a purpose, working for a bank. For me, look, and I don't want to bring out the whole banking industry. That's not what I'm trying to do here. It's not, it's just, it's not for me. I don't see how working for a big bank and helping other brokers and financial institutions make money is a way to live life with a purpose. I don't feel fulfilled. And I actually took a sabbatical. So that's like the lighter version of what you guys did. So I took a sabbatical about 2 years ago, and it was amazing. It was a very nice change of pace for me. And so that brought on all the conversations between me and my wife of, what are we doing? The kids are young. My kids are 6 and 4, by the way. So they're very young. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on whether or not it'd be a good idea to do it with young kids like that. Because my son, he's almost done kindergarten, and my daughter's in daycare. So, for her, it wouldn't be the end of the world if we took her out, right? So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that. But yeah, my kids are young. We do have a house. We have cars, and we're living a typical 9 to 5 life, right, in North America. And my wife and I, we often speak about wanting to go live somewhere else. So not to the extreme that you guys did, which is to live like around here for 6 months and then another place for 6 months. So maybe not that extreme. But we're always thinking about, and at this point, it's just an idea. We're fantasizing about it. So, what do you think about it? Is that something that everybody can do, or are you gonna tell me like, Ram, whoa, slow down, man? Let me tell you how it was.
Not at all. I've actually encountered a lot of people over the past year or two that when they hear what we're doing, or even before we executed this, hear what our plans were, they would say things like, "Oh, we always talked about that and we never did it." And that they had a big regret. Even our landlords, before we went on this adventure, they were they were like pushing us to do this. No, like, we're like, we're pretty sure we're doing that. You got to do this. They had talked about it forever and ever and never actually pulled it off. And it was a regret for them. So it's a life experience, and that's really what stood out to me is, life is all about experiences, and this is something I think my kids will always remember. I've seen them grow. I've seen them grow, emotionally, mentally, physically. They're growing like weeds too. But when you see them, I would always say, you don't really notice it until they grow out of a pair of shoes or you measure their height or something, because you're in that whirlwind schedule. But when you see them day in and day out, and the very cool part is, sure, we got some bigger experiences, went to SeaWorld and this water park and Yosemite National Park, cool stuff like that they'll remember. But it's the countless amount of board games we've played, and just the family walks and different trails and mountains and stuff like that. Just the conversation you're having day in, day out, you actually can see your kids growing day by day, right? So I highly recommend to do that. I've seen people with a house, throw it up on Airbnb or something, rent it out for a year, put your stuff in storage. And I've talked to families who have just gone to live in Mexico for a year, Costa Rica for a year, you know, Airbnb hop around the country. And your kids are at a great age. We actually were living in Calgary. This seems to be a repeat thing for us, but we had built a business and my practice and decided to burn it all down and move to Kelowna. And my kids were 5 and 4 at the time. And
Okay.
their stories, they just want to be around mom and dad. They were, totally up for the adventure and excited about it. So, I think it's something your kids would remember. It's something that, we did for our kids, but we didn't realize how much we were going to get out of it as well. And yeah, I mean, you only live once, right? And you also realize how much a year flies by. It's been a year for us now, and it has
Wow.
absolutely flown by. So yeah,
Hey,
if
man.
if you're asking for my opinion, I say do it.
Okay, that's it. I'm telling my wife and we're moving tomorrow. I got Jeff's approval.
Yeah.
Yes. Dude, like I mean, you're so right about what you're saying. Everybody always says life is short, enjoy it. I mean, we keep hearing the same old cliche, but who's actually doing something about it? Like there's this whole big earth that we have at our disposal, and a lot of people just choose to stay one spot for almost all their lives. I mean, sure, people travel, but I mean, is that really living and experiencing other cultures, other countries? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I can't also just wait for the 2 weeks summer vacation year round and say, yeah, that's my break. That to me, I noticed that it's not enough. I need to have a variety in my schedule. I need to be able to have that flexibility. And I don't know, it seems to me like you guys had that because you got rid of your businesses and you pretty much just hit the road and then decided to go wherever you wanted to go. Like, or did you guys plan it out? That's another thing too. Like, where'd you guys go specifically? Can you run me like what's the map that you guys took?
I mean, we had a plan, and that, I don't know if that even lasted a week before we scrapped it. You know, it you think, like we love camping. We thought, what, we got this, and it's a completely different story. The logistics of, hauling everything you own behind your truck, and everything from fueling to groceries to where you're going to stay is, there's a learning curve there, but that's also been part of the adventure. So we from Kelowna, we went inland. We got some family in Fernie, which is a little mountain town in BC, and then we dropped down into Washington, Idaho, Oregon, down the West Coast, California, and Arizona, and really just, played around through there, inland, coast. We'd meet a family, we'd tag along with them for a couple weeks. There's actually a lot of different groups online. They call it road schooling if you homeschool while living on the road. So there'd be a meetup over in, south of San Diego or whatever it was. So we just kind of, yeah, kind of went wherever the opportunities were.
I
And
didn't even know that was a thing, road schooling.
yeah. So I mean, the I guess to touch on it a bit, we homeschooled. This is kind of accumulation of, everything that was going on in the schools. Personally didn't align with what we wanted our kids being taught. So I never set out to homeschool. It's not something I ever thought I would do, but we took that on, and it was actually a really neat thing in Kelowna where there was an outdoor nature school. They took your kids for 2 days a week, and the schooling was 100% outdoors. So they would, learn all these cool things, starting a fire, identifying, berries, building stuff like that. So we got to dip our toe in there. We would have them the other 3 days a week, and we saw this opportunity, and that was sort of one of the biggest hurdles. What are we going to do with our kids? What about their education, that sort of thing? And I'm a chiropractor, so I had patients. They were parents, and they actually lived for 2 or 3 years on the road, and they were teachers. So they were able to teach their kids, and they said, listen, if you just, you make sure they get the basics, the math, the science, the reading, they're going to get so much life experience that it will dwarf anything they'll get in school, right? And the more we've done this, my confidence in, our ability to teach our kids and, be confident they're not falling behind has grown, because I just see them thrive, right? The amount of, every couple of weeks having to go meet new kids and talk to, kids they never met before and being able to interact with them. The real world experience that, they've learned to start a fire, they've learned to use a pocket knife, they've learned, how to use power tools, they've learned how to set up and take down camp, they've learned how to read a map, they've learned, all these things, right? It's been a positive experience overall for them. And that was probably our biggest hurdle, was about the homeschool part. Are our kids going to do okay with it? And I can say they've been doing well with it. I'd go as far as to say they're thriving.
That's great to hear. I hear a lot about it too. It's not so common here in Quebec, and I've said it before. I had Father Holy Reforged on the show, and he's all about homeschooling, right? You know him,
Yeah, great account.
and yeah, awesome guy. And he was telling me about it, and it seems like, well, even where he is in Wales, it's not that common, but it's huge in the States. I didn't think it was so common in Canada, at least not in Quebec. You ask anybody here, you talk about homeschooling, they'll be like, "What? Really? Who's gonna do that?" Is it like that out west? Apparently not, because it seems like you guys found a ton of resources, and I keep hearing about, like, we're curious about it too, man. And my wife has looked into it, and it's hard to find stuff here in Quebec. I don't know if the Quebec government is like not a fan of homeschooling. Did they want you to? There are like homeschooling co-ops that we can join and that sort of thing, but they make it so hard for you to do it because they want you to follow their curriculum, and then it makes it they make it so difficult for you to even do it. And then they say, well, okay, fine, if you do that, but you still gotta, pass our tests, and you have to show them this, show them that, teach them this, teach them that, and it's everything according to their curriculum. So, is it different out west? Because over here in Quebec, it's just, for one, it doesn't seem common, and two, they don't seem like they're a fan of it here. In terms of the Quebec government.
Yeah, to speak on the commonness, I think it's one of those things when you're not in it, it seems odd, it seems rare, it seems, the whole stigma of like, well, how are you kids going to get socialized and those sorts of things. But once you're in it, it's a growing community. And there's a few accounts I follow on Twitter that talk about homeschooling, and I've seen some graphs where the increase of homeschooling families is, taking a sharp increase. I think in large part, especially since, with the COVID and lockdowns, a lot of parents had to take on some of the teaching at home, and they saw the benefits of that potentially if that worked for them. I know with our kids, we can take care of all the math, the reading, the writing, and 1 to 2 hours a day, and then we're doing a lot of like, hey, let's get head down to the creek and flip some rocks and look for insects and that sort of thing, right? So it's a little more experiential learning. Sorry, what was the second part of the ease of it?
The government, yeah, did they make it easy for you
Yeah,
out there?
yeah, no, it seems like it's more school district based. So we landed in a good one. We have to do a beginning of school and an end of school kind of interview with the teacher, and they actually provide funding for it. But it's, they just want to make sure you're hitting the requirements. And other than that, it's a go. I know when we first started thinking about this, we were going to do this about a year prior, and we actually approached the school and said, what if we did something? We want to take our kids on a bit of traveling. What if we're, didn't know if we were going to go for the whole year, maybe, leave for a month, come back for a month. And their answer was something along the lines of like, no, we can't allow that. And, that really hit me hard about where we're at with our schooling, where I was letting you know what I wanted to do with my child, and you were saying that wasn't going to be allowed. So that was probably the final straw for me with regards to the public or government school system, and that's where we ended up in that alternative, that nature school, and they were much more accommodating. And then the next school district we found was, they were all supportive of this. Again, you get some funding to go along with it, and yeah, they've been nothing but supportive. So like tying into what you first asked, that once you're in it, there's a huge community. Everyone's very supportive. I mean, we're now seeing, like you mentioned with Alec, there's online resources. He started that group, and there's hundreds of dads in there, right? That
Yeah.
are all supporting each other. So like once you're in it, you can really see there's a thriving community, and everyone is very supportive because we're all involved with our kids' education, right? You go to pick up your kid at public school, their parents are sitting in their car scrolling their phone, waiting for the kid to come out. There's no community there. There's no bouncing ideas off each other, no supporting each other, none of that. So
Nope.
yeah, personally got nothing but positive things to say about the experience.
Okay, I want to get back to how you guys left your businesses and decided to travel with the kids, and how that affected your income, and how you guys were able to make it work. So you and you bought a trailer or an RV, or what kind of
Yeah, so I'm not sure how familiar you are with the different rigs, but a fifth wheel,
a fifth wheel?
which
Okay,
is
yeah.
a sort of a big trailer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. And so you just hit the roll from there. And so what do you do for money?
Yeah, so I still own. So I'm a chiropractor, and we had opened a gym with a clinic in it in Kelowna. So we still own a part of that, which provides some income. And then a few years back, my wife works with children's mental health, and then my primary focus and practice is youth, and I work on with youth athletes on nutrition, fitness, different things like that. So few years back, we'd started an online account just to kind of, post about stuff we were seeing in our clinic, right? And uh, partially because my wife and I had noticed, she was dealing with kids' mental health, and a lot of times that was tied back to, say, poor nutrition, lack of sleep, that sorts of things. And those were things I was dealing with. And then, if a child was injured, let's say, they might be, getting some, depression or anxiety from that. So a lot of what I was dealing with, she was more the expert in. So we started just, this account and picking each other's brains and tweeting about what we were seeing. And then people started reaching out to us asking for help. What can I do about this? What can I do about that? And that's slowly morphed into our online coaching business. So that's been a big part of our income to support. We could do that from anywhere, clearly. It's been a little tricky navigating time zones and whatnot. There's been a few mishaps when we have a meeting booked and then we change time zones and whatnot. But yeah, it's been a great experience because it's been allowing us to grow that as well. And again, being able to do that for anywhere has been beneficial to this lifestyle choice.
Jeff, it sounds like you had the support and like the approval, not that you needed it, but the approval and support of everyone around you, whether it's your friends or your family, when you told them that you guys were going to do this. Did I get that? Did I get that sense correctly? Or
Yeah, family's been very supportive. I think, friends, the odd person's like, what are you doing? That's crazy sort of thing. But, you know, I think when they see it in action, when they talk to us and, when you know, we get together with family and they hear the kids tell stories and how much they're loving it, I think they can kind of see what we're doing and some of the reasons why we did it. And yeah, we've been having nothing but support from family and friends, which is always a good thing.
it's awesome because I feel like if I told my family and my friends or whoever around us that, well, yeah, we're just gonna quit everything and hit the road, they'd probably think I went crazy.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what you're saying before, that, being in that 9 to 5 grind, that's what you're supposed to do. You go to school, you graduate, you get married, you have kids, you get a job, follow that plan. That's the norm, right? And anytime someone deviates from the norm, it's going to raise some eyebrows, good and bad, I guess. There's, if anyone who was, maybe on the fence with supporting us, it's happening regardless. And, it's not like we've lost any relationships or anything for it. And we've made some amazing friends because of it. And yeah, I guess, we never considered that, we can't do that because of this, or we can only do it if we get the support.
Right.
But yeah, everyone's, we're fortunate enough that, our friends and family are supportive and we love them all. And been makes it easier when they are sort of supporting, I guess, as well.
Okay, so help me out, man. Let's say I want to do this. What do I need to consider? What needs to get done before we actually hit the road? What do we need to plan? Do we need to plan or should we just wing it?
Well, I think I mentioned that we had planned to do this about a year earlier and went into it with no planning. And then as the logistics of that came up, we realized we weren't quite ready. So, yeah, I mean, obviously you got kids, so what that's going to look like for them, for your schooling. Having some income is important. We talk to families that are just doing it off savings. We talk to families that a big thing is your cost of living is actually quite lower, depending on where you're coming from. Having lived in Kelowna, I mean, our house rental was like $4,500 a month just for the house. And so when you're not paying that, your cost of living is noticeably lower. People live off just renting their house out, online incomes. There's, all sorts of different ways that we heard people making money. And then, how you want to live. Some people doing this, it's remarkable the different rigs out there. We've seen, motor homes that were the size of our house. And you're like, how do you how do you get this thing down the road, right? But our trailer, we live in a 30-foot trailer and it's the perfect size. We just had a couple rain days where we're at, and it's big enough for people can have their own space, and you can, crush some board games and some family movie nights and stuff like that. But it's small enough where we can get into, like, we went into the woods up in Yosemite National Park
Wow.
and stuff like that. So it's a perfect size for us. So I think once you get that, you kind of get an idea of where you want to go. Being Canadian, you want to kind of make sure you got your visa status in order to cross into the US, because you got that 180-day rule.
Yeah.
But other than that, the best part is to just wing it. Like I said, I'm the planner. I had this map out, and we're gonna go here, then we're gonna go here, and we're gonna go here, and that didn't last very long. So you got to be, somewhat flexible. A big thing for me was, you know, I could tell you where I was going to be and what I was going to be doing at like Tuesday at 2 in the afternoon. Like, my life was very regimented. I sort of had to be when you're, running a business, and I had to practice, and I was seeing patients every day. And um, life's a lot different on the road. You got to be able to kind of roll with the punches, and it's a lot more laid back too. So it took me a month or two to really embrace that. It was kind of, I need to be doing more, need to be doing more. And um, once you kind of get into that flow, it's been a very unique experience.
So whose idea was it? Was it yours or Amy, or who first tabled this idea? And then how much convincing did it take? Because look, you hear about it all the time. Couples need to be on the same page when it comes to to life and how the lifestyle you're gonna live. Uh, and look, it's amazing that you guys found each other because you made it work and you're obviously on the same page. But was there any convincing involved? And if so, like how long was this an idea in your heads until you said, you know what, no, let's do it?
I don't think there was convincing. Amy is definitely the adventurous one. She's always we did the backpacking through Europe and Central America and stuff like that during our dating years, and that was her. She was the adventurous one. I would love to have some roots planted. I would love to have my space. But we talked about it on and off for years. Oh, that'd be nice to do one day, sort of thing. But I'd say it got serious. From the point where it got serious to the point where we left, it was about 2 years. And part of it was we could see where we were living wasn't in the cards for us long term, but we didn't really know what the next step was. So this was a good way to kind of hit pause on life and evaluate the next steps. And we're still evaluating. So we're at a crossroads. If we've got to find a place to plant roots, or we're doing this for another year.
Okay, so that's what you guys are pondering right now.
Yeah, and if we do it for another year, we're coming out your way. We're going to go all the way out east into Quebec and then drop down the East Coast.
Oh, then you got to do
And
it, man.
everyone I talk to is encouraging the one more year. So we'll see. And surprisingly, our kids are both pushing for it too.
Oh, I'm not surprised at all, actually. Why would they want to stop this dream life?
You know, that's what we talk about. I think a big thing is that that's what they know right now. And the thing that we're a little bit torn, because there's pros and cons to everything. And I grew up playing sports, and friends that I grew up with I'm still friends with, and that's part of what this lifestyle doesn't provide for kids, is that stability, right? Everything's new. We're on to the next thing in a couple of weeks, and they've met dozens and dozens of friends, but having those, like, deep bonds that you form with someone you grow up with, and play on the same soccer team for year after year, they're not currently getting that.
Right.
So as much as they say they want to go, when I look at the ages of my kids, my son wants to play in the NHL. Well, he's still got to figure out how to skate, because he's out there playing street hockey right now.
Not much of that
um
in Arizona, right?
no, exactly. So
No matter how much Gary Bettman wanted it to make it happen,
it
there's no
it
ice
didn't
over there.
work. It didn't work. So, and it's probably making things worse that we're Oilers fans, and he's watching the Oilers every night, and
Oh,
now he sees McDavid. He's like, I want to be the next McDavid. I'm like, well, dude, then we probably don't want to spend next winter in Florida. We want to settle down and hit the outdoor rink and do that sort of thing. So yeah, it's we got some decisions to make. I don't know if we can go wrong, but um yeah, at a crossroads.
so give me the cons, man. That's what I wanted to get into as well. Because look, I know I said it's a dream life, but I'm sure there's there's some downsides to it. So lay it on me, man.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. Like, first and foremost, we want to do what's best for our kids. And right now they don't know what they're missing. And that's, building lifelong friendships. It's um getting that confidence you get from getting really good at something, right? Like, I can only teach them what I know, and do my best to teach them stuff I don't know. But when you get good at a sport, when you play soccer year after year and you finally score that goal, and help your team win, that sort of thing, that's a confidence that I don't know if a parent can fully replicate. um we're in a really cool experience here. We signed up to do a camp host gig for the summer, and the primary reason for that was to give our kids an experience. So they're getting they're getting the chance to drive everything from golf carts to tractors. They're using power tools. There's all these little odd things we have to fix up around the campsite, and we're tasking them with that. They have to welcome campers and check them in and that sort of thing. So you can see their confidence building just from these little wins here and there that they're getting. but one thing I wrestle with is it the same as they would get if they really were able to build something like, some skills playing a sport, or I see the guitars behind you. My daughter was really getting good at piano there for a while, and you don't really get piano lessons on the road. So we're trying to, do some YouTube learning, but not being very good at piano myself, it's tough for me to teach her, right? So and then, it depends. I don't know if this is viewed as a con, but I'm a homebody. I like my routine. I like knowing that, you know, this food item I really enjoy is at this grocery store, and this other food item is at that grocery store. So I know if after work I do the loop, I've got all the food items we need. Like, you roll into a town where you've never been to before, and you're trying to find your groceries, you're trying to find where the place you're supposed to stay at. There's a lot of those little things that the lack of familiarity with your day-to-day routine, that can throw a person off too. So, but when, like I said, it took me a couple months to get over that, and once you really get open-minded and embrace every day is a new day, and that's where the experience comes in, and that's where it becomes a lot more fulfilling, is when you just kind of you become a lot more present doing this lifestyle. And I think that's something we would all benefit from.
Yeah, for sure. And look, it's interesting because you were saying, the part of the reason why you guys did this was to get away from the routine. And now, but you're sort of saying, well, now at some point we got to settle down because we need that routine, and you're someone that needs it. So, in your opinion, is this lifestyle that you experienced the last couple of years, is that sustainable, the nomad life? Or is that like once in a lifetime, do it once, get it out of your system and then, go back to your regular life?
We've met families that are on year 6, 7, 8. They've actually got
What?
pregnant, had their kid while living on the road, right? So
Okay.
it's different for everyone, and it's all your frame of mind, right? We've met people that did it for a year, and that was good. They got that experience, checked it off the list, and kind of slid back in. And it's one thing we talk about, is if we did this for a year and then went right back to what we were doing before, just busy, 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 9 to 5, I don't think it would take long for us to be like, what did we do? We managed to recognize that that wasn't what we wanted and detach ourselves from that, and that's not something that everyone's able to do. So to just jump right back in is not necessarily something we want to do.
Okay.
So it's finding, it's sort of what can we do to make life work for us? Can we have our cake and eat it too, to some extent? Can we give our kids that experience of planting some roots while maintaining some autonomy over our schedule, right?
Yeah.
Not getting in that routine that's going to lead to burnout to some degree, right?
Yeah,
um
and that's something that I'm trying to avoid again, man. Because like I mentioned, I took a sabbatical, but after that, I just went back to the bank because I hadn't
what did you
within
do
that.
on that sabbatical?
Oh,
How'd you spend that
dude,
time
I
off?
lived. Dude, I would do things that well, I told myself I didn't have time to do with a full-time job. I read books, for God's sakes. I worked out. I started working now. I went on hikes. I took long walks. Went to lunch with my wife on a Tuesday, a random Tuesday, because why not? Because I could. I took my parents out for dinner, visited Montreal, my own city that I thought I knew, but I never took the time to visit like this part of town or that part of town. I started a podcast, I started posting on social media, things like that, things that I told myself I would never have time to do. So I mean, look, it was an amazing year. I had spent extra quality time with my kids because I've always been a present father, and it's something I pride myself in. But I would take my kids out of school or daycare and we'd spend a day together because I could, because I wasn't working Monday or Friday. And look, I'm blessed. I'm blessed that my wife and I had been financially well off for a while now, working for the devil. So I was able to do that. It's not for everyone. Not everybody can just take a year off and not work and not have any income. But I mean, I did have my savings and my investments, and so I was able to do it because, just like you guys, I told myself, I keep hearing you only live once. Life is short. Okay, so let's do it. Because I know that I'm meant to be doing something more. So yes, like I mentioned, I am back at the bank, but that's only because I haven't figured out what it is I'm supposed to do. And dude, it's been a struggle in my mind since I took that sabbatical. You know, it's been good and bad. It's been good because I needed it. I needed that wake up call because I pretty much had a burnout, and it was like my body telling me, dude, get out of this life. You know, in terms of your career, my everything else was fine. My marriage is fine. The kid, you know, my kids, I love them and all that stuff. It was is all like career driven. This burnout. Just I realized that working for a bank, what am I doing? What's my contribution to society? Right? And I had an itch to do something more. So during my sabbatical, I also started volunteering doing
Nice.
volunteer work, and that's been huge. In terms of doing something fulfilling, that helped, but it's not enough. And I'm still doing it despite the fact that I'm working. I still take a day off once a month though, so it's not a lot. But you know, working for a bank, that's all I can give is once a month. I do it, and it's great, but I need more. So I'm on a quest, my man, to find what it is I'm supposed to do. And is it this podcast? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not saying I'll be the next Joe Rogan. That would be the dream. If I could actually make money off of this, oh, dude, hell yeah, I'm doing it. But look, it's I realize it might be a long shot, but I am giving it a shot. So this is what this is. It's Dads with Mics, and I'm hoping it becomes something. But at the very least, you know, this is bringing me something else that helps me deal with the fact that okay, I'm not that happy in my job, but having these conversations like this with you, man, it helps a lot. So the working out, the reading books, the spending time with my kids, doing this podcast, talking with the guys on Lords of X, things like this, it's helped a lot mentally. So that's probably the biggest. People ask me why are you doing why you what did you start a podcast for? You know, you trying to become Lex Friedman? No, not really. It's sort of therapeutic for me. You know, it's kind of like I needed this. I need to have conversations like this. So this podcast is more for me than anything else. But if it can become something somehow, you know, who knows? The door's open. Fingers are crossed. Yeah, so wish me the best, man. Because I'm hoping this takes me out of the corporate world forever.
That is very cool to hear, man. And I've gotten in the habit of always, reflecting back. So, if you take out before you took your sabbatical, even though you're back with the bank, look at all those habits you've built. Look at how much that year has changed your perspective. You've completely changed your whole situation from that, right?
Oh yeah, man.
So you with these realizations and the growth you've experienced from focusing on self-care, what does another year look like? Right? It's pretty cool to
Yeah.
hear that journey.
Yeah, thanks, man. And look, it wasn't easy to go through mentally. You know, it was a struggle, and I often thinking to myself, "What am I doing? I'm actually not working. Like, what does that say to my kids?" But like you said, it's 100% right. I built amazing habits working out. Now I'm obsessed with it. I started during my sabbatical, granted, but once I started working again, to me, it became a non-negotiable. So whether it's working out, you know, during my lunch break or in the evening, ideally not in the evening because my energy is not the same in the evening. But you know, if I have to fit it in, then it's getting done because it's I started it. It feels great. I used to have a dad bod, believe it or not. You know, I'm a small guy, but I had a dad bod. And look, it wasn't healthy. I had low energy, low motivation, and working out, man, is just it gives you this high amount of energy and it just pushes you to do good as a father, as a husband, as a person in general. And a lot of people think, you know, they need to have, oh, I don't have the energy to work out. But I think it's the other way around. I think you need to do
Yeah,
the workout to get the energy and then the motivation will come. You don't wait for the motivation to work out. You know, just get
100%.
started and then all those benefits come along. And they have, man. And I'm a living proof of it, example of it, that I did it, and it's not perfect yet. I'm still trying to cut down some fat because I started from a high body fat percentage a couple of years ago, and I'm still working it off. But yeah, man, it feels good. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm almost 40, and I'm in the best shape of my life. To be able to say that is just crazy to me. And I know you guys, a big part of raising healthy families is about fitness and nutrition, right? So, can you tell me a little bit about that and how did that come about and what was the idea behind it?
Yeah, I mean, hearing your story, man, that's what drives me. I was in the exact same boat. You know, I was working in health and fitness for 20 years, but when you have kids, it hits you. You know, it hits you hard, and no one can prepare you for that. No one can prepare you for the lack of sleep and the stress and worry that you go through. And I think there's some degree of dad bod that most of us have to get, right. And but it that quickly can turn into a rut. You know, I don't have time and I don't have the energy. And you said something back there where you mentioned what sort of message are you sending to your kids not working for a year. Well, I see that as the opposite, right? What sort of message would you send if you would have just stayed on that path of being unhappy and staying out of shape and those sorts of things, right? You recognize you needed a change and you made the change. And that's sort of part of what we try and preach to parents. You know, people reach out and my kid's got anxiety, my kid's overweight, they'll reach out with a problem. And as you sort of work your way back, well, why is the kid overweight? Well, he's eating an unhealthy diet. Well, why is he eating an unhealthy diet? Well, the family eats an unhealthy diet. And why is the family, and you just work your way back. And almost all the unhealthy habits that show up in kids are stemming from the parents. And a lot of parents don't want to hear that. And that's understandable. But change won't happen in your kids, change won't happen in your family until change happens with the parents, right? So it
Yeah.
starts at the top. So you think of the message you're sending to your kids now. They see dad working, they see dad's in the best shape of his life, they see that he's getting that workout in no matter what. That's the message you want to send to your kids. And they're gonna, well, what do you do at your workouts? And that's how it started with us. We've never forced fitness on our kids. Clearly, I mentioned we own a gym, so when we would go work out, they would come, and sometimes they would play with their toys in the corner, and sometimes they would want to come hang off the barbell. And well, then they got curious. Well, can I try? And then they would try it, and then now they often work out with us. Living in a trailer, we don't have access to a gym, but I've got all the different bands and all the resistance loops and all that. And between push-ups and squats and sprinting up a hill, that half the time they're doing it with us because they don't view it as exercise. They view it as having fun. They're moving their bodies and they're hanging out with mom and dad. So um, I think, what started this business is we really just saw how the overall health of kids is declining. It's getting worse and worse, whether you look at their mental health, their physical health, their emotional health. And it almost always comes back to just the basics, right? We're feeding them ultra processed foods. They're not getting enough sleep. They're not moving enough. They're on a screen too much. So we need to clean up those foundational aspects to health. And we see it every day in our practices with the patients we work with. And we're very blunt with parents where there's no quick fix. If you want to try the pill route, then that we're not the people for you. You can go to your doctor, but this is what we're seeing. It's almost always too much screens, not enough exercise, not enough time outside, unhealthy foods, a combination of those things, right? So for those parents who are interested in making a change, then those are the people we want to help, we want to work with. A big thing too, when you've mentioned burnout, as the way the medical system's set up as a chiropractor, to make the ends meet and pay the bills at the end of the day, you're having to see 20 people a day. I see them for 15 minutes a day. You can only make so much impact working with someone for 15, 20 minutes once or twice a week, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to talk to them about nutrition and you're trying to, educate them on exercise, those sorts of things. Right now, we limit the amount of families we work with because we want to go deep. We want to really make a difference. We want to get to the bottom of all this and provide that support and accountability to really make a difference. And when someone's committed to the change and you see that the parent or parents that are turning their health around and setting that good example for their kids and putting in the work to feed their kids healthier foods, you know that trajectory of that child has changed, that the life that that child will experience is completely different compared to the path they were on, and that's really fulfilling for us. So that's why we have kind of, gone all in on this. And it's in part like your podcast. It's awesome to make a change, but the fulfillment we get from helping a family completely transform their health, I mean, there's not much better feeling in the world than that for us.
Dude, that's awesome. And I think I saw a post from you guys, was it yesterday or today even maybe, that your kids never had, they're 10 and 8 and they've never had a candy bar. Was that,
Yeah,
is that
yeah,
something
I
along
think,
those lines? Or they've never had soda? I forget what it was exactly, but is that true?
yeah, I think I forget exactly how it was worded. I think Hype Fury might have put that one out, but yeah, I mean, our daughter just turned 10. They've I think they've had one soda, and that would have been grandma and grandpa that gave it to them.
Right.
But and I think we prefaced it with that. This, it wasn't in any way, shape, or form trying to be any sort of like a boast or anything. It was to show that it can be done.
Yeah.
And people make comments like, oh, like, your poor kids. Well, my
No.
kids, they love life. They're extremely healthy. They love eating, the yogurt and berries. They love eating, their eggs in the morning. They love when we make, steak or nachos or smoothies or whatever it might be, because
Your
that's
your
all they,
protein ice cream, right? I see you guys
exactly. Hey,
post your
yeah, oh
ice creams, dude.
man,
They look delicious.
I should be getting a commission from the ice
Ninja,
cream maker, yeah, from the Ninja guys, yeah.
affiliate for
But
them.
they make their own ice cream now. We've always had them in the kitchen. The other day, I think I mentioned it was my birthday. I woke up, my daughter had fried my eggs, cut my potatoes. My son had made my coffee smoothie. They're competent in the kitchen, and they've always just been around food. We go to U Pick Farms and pick berries in the summer. We get our meat and our dairy from a local farm, which is a little more challenging living on the road to find those places. But so they've always been around real food. And, it's something we preach to parents, like, oh, all my kid wants is like the gummy bears in the pantry or the chicken nuggets. It's like, well, if
That's what
those
you gave
weren't
him.
there, exactly. If they weren't given those, then they wouldn't ask for them. So, from day one, people ask, what would you do on like Halloween? Well, we always will, go get, a coupon for an activity. We're going to go to like a water park with mom and dad, or you go get, a toy or something, a soccer ball from the store, and they would cash in their candy for those things. And, when they're little, they don't really understand. They're just here, oh, here's a soccer ball, take the soccer ball then. But now as they're older, we do give them the choice, and it's, they've learned to read basic ingredients. This stuff here will give you less energy. This stuff here will give you a tummy ache, versus, these foods will help you grow up big and strong, sort of thing. So, um, it's gotten to the point where they've tried a gummy bear and they've tried stuff like that, but their palate, their taste buds haven't been destroyed from all these processed foods.
Wow.
So when they go to a kid's birthday party, they might try a bite of cake, and more often than not, they pass on it. And again, it wasn't meant to, be any sort of, this is better than that. It's just, if you want to not feed your kids ultra processed foods, there's a path to do so. And it honestly wasn't that hard. We eat ice cream probably 5 nights a week, but we make our own ice cream.
Right.
My kids love blueberry muffins, and they make their own blueberry muffins with my wife. So there's different options to be able to go. Sure, it takes a little more effort, but that's also the fun stuff. We have fun in the kitchen playing around, trying new things, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my long response to that tweet, but
No,
it's
dude, you should
doable.
absolutely brag about it. It is a huge flex to be able to say that your kids don't like candy. It's not weird. That being weird is having too much sugar. That's weird. That should be what's we consider weird, not what you
It,
guys are
it it
doing.
should be. It should be.
It should be. It's we're so far from that right now, and it's such a shame. And but dude, sugar is addictive. It is addictive. And look, I wish we hadn't introduced it to our kids early on in their lives. they're doing a lot better now with it, and that's thanks to my wife and I, and like the rules that we've set. We've sort of tried to like phase it out gradually, but it's working. Because it came to a point where the kids were asking for dessert after dinner every day. And then I realized that, and I was like, "Oh no, what do we do?" So that's when I had a talk with my wife and said, "We got to reverse this thing." And it's not impossible. We did it.
So,
It came to a point where we decided to make it an easy rule. Okay, sweets will be on the weekend only. And at first, of course, there was some, they didn't like it, being 6 and 4, obviously, they were against it, but they followed the rules and we did it. And sure enough, after a few weeks, they started asking less and less. And I would say weekend thing because at the weekend, oftentimes we go visit the grandparents, of course, grandma and grandpa, and
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
give them a little treat here and there. And there's Halloween and birthdays and so that's fine. So in our house, it's the rule is on the weekend only, and special events like a birthday or Halloween or Christmas. So it is possible. It is possible to reverse it, even if your kids have been used to it. You might not, it might not be something that you want to cut out completely in your family, for whoever's listening, but it is possible to limit it because it is addictive. And do we really want this to be a habit for them growing up and wanting donuts for breakfast or Fruit Loops? I know some grown-ups who still eat Fruit Loops for breakfast. That's not a breakfast. And we did the same thing with TV, man. It also got introduced to them maybe a bit too early, and we also made it a rule. Same thing. We went again with the weekend thing because it worked with the sweets. So let's try it out with the TVs. And so we said weekend only in 30 minutes. And after a while, and I don't know how this happened, but after a while, so they were watching it only 30 minutes on the weekend. After a while, they stopped asking for it altogether. And I don't even remember the last time they watched TV, dude. And to me, that's like, wow, such a big win for my wife and I. We're so proud of that. We tell everybody about it. And they're like, poor, I feel bad for your kids. I feel bad for my
Yeah.
kids. No.
Yeah.
They're healthy, they're happy, they're creative, they're using their imaginations to play together and just they manage to get busy, and we don't even have to tell them or find them things to do. Take away sugar, take away TV, and your kids will find a way to have fun because they're kids. That's what their minds are that's how they are. And I just wish that more people would see it that way. But I feel like it's still considered strange what I'm doing, what we're doing in my family. So I'm curious, what do you think would be the best way for people to start to try to do a detox with either sweets or screens? What's the best way to go about it when people have been too used to it?
I mean, I'll just start by saying that that's awesome, man. I love hearing those success stories, and you're 100% right. I mean, that those kids don't need those things, and from a they're not built for that. They're not built to sit in front of a screen. They're not built to have that dopamine hit from the sugar, from the screen time. It's we put that on, and we give them the screen to buy us some time as parents. We give them the sugar, and that's all these kid snacks. That's a topic for another time, but all these kids snacks that are marketed to parents as healthy. I mean, it's just full of crap ingredients that's designed to get them hooked on the stuff for life, so they turn into adults eating Fruit Loops. But when we work with someone, it's almost exactly what you guys did. It's, where do you want to be from where you are now? Right now my kids watch screens 5 hours a day, and I want to get that down to 1 hour a day. Well, now we sort of have that goal, and let's get a plan to wean down to that. It's never going to work good going from 5 to 1, because there is that addictive component. We have to recognize there is that addictive component. So we want to, if we're using screens as an example, well, we're going to start going down from 5 to 4 for a week, and then down to 3 for a week. And depending on the age of the kid, you want to communicate why you're doing this. It's not just because mom and dad
Right.
said so, because you're going to get some defiance, and kids love putting up that power struggle. But listen, we've made a decision, this family, we want to spend less time on screens. We want to spend more time as a family. So this is the plan we're going to do, right? And then the other big step is you can't just take something away. You can't just say no more screens, figure something out. You need to put stuff in their environment. Again, age appropriate, right? Is it board games? Is it sports equipment? Is it, whatever it's going to be, some arts and crafts? And then show them, right? If you're saying no more screens for you, but I'm sitting here and going to scroll on my phone, well, that's not going to work well either, right? So what most parents experience that do commit to the process is, like you said, after a couple weeks, my kids aren't even asking for screens, because now instead of turning on TV, we're coloring together, we're building Lego together, we're playing catch in the backyard together. And that's the stuff kids are going to start asking for, because that is what is stimulating all their senses. That is what's really firing up their creativity and their imagination. Screens do the opposite. Screens dull all that. We've seen
Yeah.
the studies now that you can, you just go online and you'll see, different people posting, MRIs of brains and stuff like that are showing when we're staring at a screen, most of our brain is sensory deprived. And when you get them off screens and they can fire up that imagination that's been stifled by too much screen time, when you can get them having fun with mom and dad, which is what they truly want, then they're going to start living life offline, and they're going to be so much more fulfilled by it, and they're not going to ask for screens. And the same goes for sugar too, right? Their
Yeah.
body just craves fuel. So when you start replacing the sugar with the healthy foods, they're going to start to enjoy those healthy foods, especially if they had a role in preparing it, role in, going to the grocery store with mom and dad in the kitchen preparing it. They're going to feel a sense of accomplishment as they help cook dinner for when dad comes home from work, and they're going to enjoy eating that stuff. And that's going to be the stuff that gives them energy. That's going to be the stuff that prevents those wild mood swings that come from just the sugary snacks. And they're going to be so much more happier for it. And they're just going to not ask for the sweets, right? So it's really taken that sort of step-by-step approach to undo the stuff that as parents we unknowingly do to our kids, right? Well, I bought this food because it said it was healthy, and life was it was easier to cook dinner when I didn't have the kid with me, so I tossed them the iPad, and those little things turn into habits, right? And it can get out of hand pretty quickly, but like you said, it's never too late. It's never too late. I've always, I remember when I first had my daughter, and the very first bath I gave her, the water was like too hot. She was screaming. I'm like, oh, like I've ruined my kid, she's never gonna like baths again. Like, it's a parent instinct, but kids are resilient. They're so strong. They're so resilient, and you know, they're they're naturally going to thrive if we just sort of get out of their way and not put too many roadblocks in the way.
That's awesome, man. I love what you guys are doing. I love the message that you guys are bringing about every day with your content. And I wish there was more of it, to be honest. And we need more of that. We need to spread that message. And you and Amy are, that's exactly what you're doing. I'm a big fan of your account, and I love just seeing what you guys do on a day-to-day basis with your kids and helping other families. So, Jeff, let me know, where can people find you if they would like to inquire about your services, with its regards to health, fitness, or nutrition. Where can they reach you?
Sure. If you're on social media, our main accounts on Twitter or X, and that's at thriving double underscore kids. Our websites at healthyfamiliesthrive.com. And those are the two best places to find us. And, we get parents just reaching out we love to answer questions. Things like DMs are open. Again, we love doing what we do and connect with other parents. So happy to hear from anyone that's got any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining me on That's with Mike's. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Enjoyed the conversation.